Good morning. It's a beautiful summer morning towards the end of June, and we are out harvesting garlic scapes today. Garlic scapes are the immature flower bud from a garlic plant. The reason we remove the flower bud is we don't want the garlic plant to send too much energy into producing a seed head when what we're really after is the garlic bulb. The more energy it puts into trying to produce the little bulbils at the top, we want it to put the energy into the garlic bulb so the bulb sizes up nicely. As a side benefit, we get to enjoy these scapes at a time when most likely your garlic store is starting to wane. So this is a great substitute for actual garlic cloves. You can saute them, use them in stir fries and fried rice, and also to make pesto. After you've harvested your garlic scapes and brought them back to the kitchen, it's time to make pesto. And I went out and picked a little basil too because I just adore having basil in my pesto. I like a basil garlic pesto. So there's two recipes included here. So you can do the basic pesto recipe, or you can do the basil garlic pesto, which is my favorite. The process for making pesto couldn't be simpler. Just remove the flower bud and the cut end where you cut it off of the garlic plant. Just rough cut, just chop them up into like 1-inch pieces is fine. You're going to use either a blender or a food processor. Whatever you have to use will work. And I'll show you both methods here. If you don't have garlic scapes available to you, you can also use just regular garlic. I included the recipe modifications for that down below. If you're using basil, just give that a rough cut too. It'll just chop up in the blender a little bit better. You'll need about a 1/4 cup of basil, and I often put in more than that. I'm usually putting in 1/3 to 1/2 of a cup of basil because I really like it. Then you'll need about a cup of garlic scapes. I probably have a little more than that here, but about a cup will do. In addition to that, you'll need some nuts. So I usually use almonds, but here I am using sunflower nuts just because that's what I have on hand. So add in the garlic scapes, the basil, and your nuts. Start by just processing that on low speed. Get a good grind on it, and then add in your 3/4 cup of olive oil. The oil will help the blender incorporate everything and mix it well, chop it up good. And don't worry about blending too long because you want it more of a paste rather than chunky pieces. It's just a lot more palatable when you eat it, so just let it whir for a while. And I usually stop the blender about midway through the process and just scrape the sides down so that you get all of the pieces well incorporated. And then you'll want to add the rest of your ingredients, your salt and your pepper. And I'm using a pepper grinder here. your Parmesan cheese. And you can add a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, just whatever you prefer. You could also use fresh Parmesan cheese, but again, this is what I had on hand. We prefer a nice smooth paste consistency rather than chunks. Stop the blender periodically and scrape down the sides just to make sure you're getting everything incorporated well. And as you can see, the more pasty it gets, the more the blender starts to pulse. That's a good sign that it's done. So now remove the container from the blender and just take a look and see if it's the consistency you want, if there are any unincorporated chunks, and if you need to blend some more. The one drawback about the blender is it's a little harder to remove the pesto from around the blades. So I really do like to use the food processor, and I just use the flat blade at the bottom. Put in your scapes and your basil and your nuts. Put the top on that and blend at low speed. And then just start adding your olive oil like we did with the blender. That will really help to start incorporating everything into a paste. You can see how it just starts to ball up once you add the oil. Then add your other ingredients, your salt and your pepper, and if you're going to be using Parmesan cheese, this batch I didn't put the Parmesan cheese in, so that really is optional. You can decide if you want to incorporate it. I like to do some of both for using the pesto in different ways. I sometimes use it in like an Alfredo type sauce, and I really like to have the Parmesan cheese in with that, but there may be other recipes that you might want to use the pesto where you don't want the Parmesan cheese. Again, open it up and scrape the sides just to make sure you get everything incorporated and get all the pieces chopped into the paste. Then just remove the blade, and like I said, it's so much easier to scrape the bowl clean than it is in a blender, so that's one of the benefits of using a food processor. I love sharing some of my family's favorite recipes with all of you. You can use this pesto with crackers, chips, or your favorite romaine lettuce hearts. We've also used it in an Alfredo sauce over pasta, and you can make pesto pizza. Enjoy! Thanks, we'll see you again next time.